Hi, welcome back to Event Ready Podcast, where we talk about our roller coaster ride of being a live event artist.
If you're a painter, calligrapher, or illustrator, this podcast is for you.
Because we're about to uncover the secrets, the stories, and the struggles of the industry. This is your host, Michelle.
And I'm Talisa.
And I'm Isabel.
All right. Hi, everyone. So far in season two, we've pretty much been like following a logical flow of how this podcast has been going. Like we talk about our career, how we built it, what tools we use to build this business, and how to use CRM to streamline our process. But today it is a little different. If you remember, in season one, we had a special um, episode on illustration, like live illustration, but it was very generic. Like it was general like illustration, both about in-store. It wasn't very niche into about wedding guest illustration, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. And since Isabel has been doing quite a lot of that this year, so we're spotlighting her today.
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah, and like it's been pretty popular. It's I don't know if it's trending or if it's like I don't know. The demand is just getting really high for a wedding guest illustration, so it's the perfect time to ask Isabel about the experience, the process, and all that.
Yes. So thanks for the intro. Yeah, so like you said, it kind of came up on a lot of people's radar. I don't know if it's trending, popular, whatever environmental factors are happening. But it just so coincided with my decision to also explore booking more weddings. So it kind of worked out like quite nicely for me. So once I've been posting more of this content on stories and such, people have expressed a lot of interest and sent me a lot of questions along the way. And I honestly just don't have so much time capacity to like get back to everybody. And it is like very specific Q&A. So I thought this would be like also a really great opportunity to share all this information with everyone. And just talk about it because it's been a very interesting ride.
Yeah. Well, can you first spill the tea about wedding guest illustration?
Yes, I can. So
Go.
I want to say that live fashion illustrations at weddings is a combined skill of speed and volume, drawing skill, and also capturing a guest's essence in their likeness and their fashion. So their look, their outfit, capturing all of that in one go very quickly and then lasting the whole night for
Yeah, I
the
think
whole wedding.
it sounds, I mean, I think well, I personally have only done like a couple, mostly doing like in store and I want to so I don't have a lot of experience. This is why we're gonna ask you quite a lot of questions about like let's talk about like the definition. Like, you talk about like it is a combined skill, but like and it makes sense because everybody's dressed up. They want to be remember like how they dressed up, right? And something for the guests to bring home. So let's talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you pretty much covered it. To just delve into it a little bit more, it is the real time creation of these fashionable sketches, and we are focusing on all the wedding guests and their outfits that they have so carefully chosen and put on. And made themselves up for this very special night to celebrate the wedding couple. And usually it's throughout cocktail hour, going into dinner reception time, and sometimes I get to stay until like the crazy hours, which is we'll get into that. It's a whole experience wrapped up in one. Where like you were kind of mentioning, you know, we've been doing in-store illustrations. It's just like a very different experience. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And obviously you probably every time you do like a brand illustration or in store, you always get asked, "Do you also do weddings?"
Yes, that's true. I forgot about that. We do get that question all the time. Or sometimes it's an assumption loaded question. Sometimes it's like, "Oh, you must also do weddings." Like, and when I didn't before, I like never quite knew how to answer that. It's like, I could. Yes, sure. Do you want to hire me?
I
Where
think
is
it's
this conversation going?
I mean, people are mostly used to seeing this like at weddings. Like that's where you see I mean, people have gone to many weddings, but you don't really see this in the store too much. So wedding illustration, for me, I don't do any of this stuff. So I'm going to be learning a lot. But when I think about illustration, like I've seen it at weddings before and not so much in the stores.
Ooh, yeah, that is a different point of view. I think like from the way we look at it, it's so different. But yeah, no, you're right. People who have been to weddings that have seen this, that's kind of like where they would base it from.
Yeah. But that's just me. I don't do this like you guys do. So yeah,
I think the difference is like the intention of why illustration is done. In store, it's doing it for like a gift of purchase kind of thing, right? Or like a VIP client kind of thing. But then when it's like at a wedding, it's for an entertainment purposes and a favor, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, we're gonna get into all of that. I wanted to give a little bit of like context and background and just like connect it with the history of fashion drawings a little bit. Because that's me, that's what I'm all about. I love like talking about the origin of certain arts and how they come to be what we know them as today. So fashion illustration, I mean, it was born out of a need to communicate fashion designs. Before photography was invented, you know, they had to come up with a way to draw and contextualize it on a human body, how that piece of clothing would look, and how it was to be sewn and made, and what textures are being incorporated. And then it would get disseminated through magazines and catalogs, and this is how like they would spread that information through these drawings, right? And over time, you know, it became like a marketing tool because now we can communicate fashion trends, different brands designing different things, and this is how they market their clothing, more than just doing technical drawings of like how to make this garment, right? So I think to connect it to modern day, these illustrations can convey a lot of mood, personality, and like clothing movement in ways that a photograph just can't. And that's just so specific to the artist that is doing the work. A lot of the times, like we can follow artists on Instagram and be able to see like a drawing and know who did it, right?
Yeah, the style.
Yeah, it's just like so personalized to the way that you express your strokes, color, your media. So I think it's just really cool. At this point, it's, you know, it's more than, you know, fashion drawings for a purpose, but now it's like an art form, right? So then to bring it to the live event experience, now it's an art form that's brought live. So it's like it's evolved to so many steps, and to bring it to like a wedding is really interesting too, where it maybe like some more large scale weddings, they've always looked at entertainment options, but now small weddings are looking at it too. Like, how do we get the guests involved? How do we give them something really special? You know, what if I want to give them more than a box of chocolates to leave the wedding with? Like, what do we do to interact with them a little bit more? And then also have like a really, really special souvenir apart from the, you know, live experience of seeing somebody make that art. So it's really interesting. When I first came across it, I didn't know if I could really do it,
Yeah. Because
you know, like from a volume perspective. It's really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something that I had to, you know, physically practice for, and like, you know, time myself and like really work out how I was gonna approach it before I offered it. Yeah.
I think
You're
that,
right.
like, as a fellow illustrator, it's really hard when you already know how to do, like, how to draw body anatomy in a like detailed form, and then taking out all those details and then only communicating the parts that are important, and then changing the pose to make the guest look, like it's a fashion illustration. It's very tricky.
It is, and you have very little time to make those decisions.
Yeah.
You know, you're not kind of, I don't know why the analogy of like doing calligraphy suddenly came up, but it's like, okay, we're writing a word, and then after it's all done, 5 minutes later, we can decide how to flourish it and like change things up and like work out spacing after the fact. With illustrations, I feel like it's a lot of like quick split moment decisions you have to make. Like, the pose is going to look like this person is this tall, this is how the dress is going to fall, and that's it. And then like once that's drawn, you like the time, to me there's like a time ticking in my brain. I'm like, go 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 go, let's just finish this. Once that decision's made, you just gotta like finish it, move on, and then do the next one. And that stuff is stressful.
It's very stressful. Yeah. I'm still intimidated by it, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, there was one more piece I wanted to mention about bringing fashion illustrations to weddings, and like what it means, or like who's hiring for this. This didn't really occur to me until this wedding season, where I've attended a few, or I worked at a few like very luxury, high end weddings, like big budget weddings, where I feel like, and this isn't to like minimize my presence or anything. I'm not like putting myself down, but I think my presence in that wedding was more to do with the appearance, like the aesthetic of the wedding, where, the wedding was like quite themed. One of it was like everyone had to be dressed in black and white. And everyone showed up in like gorgeous, like white dresses. Every single female was like sparkle,
like
head to toe white. So that's like a very specific look, right? And every single man is in like a tuxedo black. So the black and white theme was very strong. Everyone really put a lot of thought into their outfit for the night, their hair, their makeup. Everything was like perfect. And there was like, I don't know, 200 guests at this wedding. So my being there to draw, 50 people, like that wasn't significant. It wasn't about the number of drawings I pumped out. It wasn't about the like like specifically the quality of my drawings. Even it was just the fact that like, oh, hiring a fashion illustrator who was good at their job and could focus on the fashion, that was like very important to the aesthetic of the wedding, which I thought was really interesting. That's something new I learned, and I felt that when I was there. It's like, oh, I'm here to play a part in the aesthetic, and this is what I'm helping to like bring that quality. Another wedding was like there was a dress code of like every dress had to be, you know, summer pastel floral theme, and
Yeah.
everyone did their homework. Again, it's just like it's a lot of thought put into these outfits, and then to be able to capture that, I think that's very special. Like imagine like you are, you know, going out shopping, you're doing all this like recon to just attend a wedding, and then somebody is there to like capture your outfit that night. Like that's very, very memorable. Not just like,
Yeah.
oh, I pulled this dress out of my closet that I've worn 20 times. Like that's not, it's not the same vibe as the weddings I just like described. And I can see how like that ambiance was very important. So
Yeah.
that
It
was
just
really
it
special.
captures the whole like it just everything is just it's like a perfect picture of a whole wedding experience, and it's very thoughtful.
It's so
Yeah.
special too. Like you are
Yeah.
there and you're capturing someone's special day and you're giving those to the guest who the bride and groom wanted to celebrate. Like everything is just, it's so meaningful. And especially you're doing it by hand. Like you can't get that everywhere.
Yeah, AI can't do that. That would like diminish the experience. Like imagine you have like a photo booth and then like, illustrate me. It's not the same experience as like an artist that does it.
Yeah,
Right.
it's true. I mean, anyone can download an app and do that.
Yeah, and then add a filter to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Um so we're on the experience and expertise portion of this episode. Let's talk about like environment. So I know that you started from like in-store illustration and now you're doing more wedding, private events, high volume illustration. Can you explain like what the difference between those two, like how it feels like?
Yes. I had my own assumptions getting into it, but once I've done a number of them, I can confidently say that the environment is just like totally 180. Um, like so different. And I think like doing a wedding or a private event, even like by that I mean like the client is not a brand, the client is not a company. They're not spending somebody else's dollars, they're spending their own dollars. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're hiring you, you are the expert, you own this event, you own this service. And so as soon as that um switched in my brain, I was like, oh, like I get to call the shots. Like it's really interesting, where I can control a lot more variables, which I like.
Mhm.
In the store setting, you do have to report to the local staff. You know, you
Yep.
have a manager to impress. You got their customers that you gotta impress. Like these are things that you have to be, you know, in top shape for. Yes. But at the wedding, it's kind of like, you know, you are running the show. You know, you get to say things like, oh, I work best with this kind of setup. I need this, I need that. Oh, FYI, I think like this placement for the table is like probably not a good idea. Like you get to say a lot more things and control your environment more than you can in an in-store setting,
Mhm.
which you just have less input, right?
Right.
In the store, and you don't get to say, you know, how long you want to be there for. The stores usually contact you and they say, we want to run a 4-hour event on a Saturday, and you're kind of like, you're a yes or no. Of course you can like make suggestions and ask them to be flexible, whereas with a wedding they're really looking to you for the answers. They're kind of like, oh, well, I think it would be nice if we had it for cocktail hour, and then I would say I think it would be better if we just did it for this long and from this time. Is it outside? Is it inside? You get to be a lot more in that conversation. So that's the on-site environment, I guess. And another thing is we talked about like, the live event experience, like the interactive experience versus maybe not versus, but also the second thing is having this keepsake to take away. I feel like after working these weddings, there's much more importance put on the takeaway. It's less so about that like one-on-one interactive experience that we're looking for in an in-store setting where you have a VIP sit down, you're sketching them while they're in the chair and it's like very direct. Whereas at the weddings, it's really like you want to fit seamlessly into a pre-existing program. A planner has already determined with the bride and groom or with the wedding couple what the program is. They're going to enter the room at this time, this minute. And then 15 minutes later, they're going to do this toast. And then 30 minutes later, we're going to do this, right? And you need to fit into that program kind of like seamlessly. So you're not there to like add another layer of complexity to the logistics. You're just kind of there to be in the background and also offer this amazing takeaway. The interactive part is really watching as they pass by. They're kind of like they're not watching their own drawing, although sometimes
they're watching someone else. Yeah,
they could, but they're really just happen to like catch some of your painting. And a lot of the times it'll be like in their lineup for the buffet where like people walk through and they're like, oh, like they get to watch me for the time they're in the lineup, right? And then they move on and then a new batch get to watch me.
Like, did you do me yet? Did you draw me yet?
Exactly. So yeah, like you're just like I don't know. I can't talk about that right now. I need to focus. But yeah, like your job is no longer doing that like a one-on-one entertainment. You're entertaining the whole crowd. You're entertaining everyone who's there. You're entertaining the planner even. Sometimes the caterer, like the photographer. Me and the photographer always have lots of chats. Like so it's like it's really overwhelming in some ways compared to the in-store thing where you have sometimes you cause a little bit of commotion, maybe you have a bit of an audience watching you, but it's not 50 100 people at a time where they're just monitoring you. Okay, and sorry, I know I'm just like so rambly, but
no worries.
The last thing I wanted to mention was that it's related to the last point, but it's just such a long. It's a marathon, know. It's the sheer number of drawings you got to get through, and the number of hours you got to get through. And in my mind, I'm always kind of shooting for a quota. I know how much I can draw. I know how much I've estimated to a client that I can draw for the duration. So I'm kind of like I have a goal in mind. Whereas in a store, you're kind of like just people coming in and out. You could be doing 5 in 5 hours, or you could be doing 40 in 5 hours. You just don't know. And at the wedding, I'm like, I have a number. I have a number in mind. I want to do 50. And then, so what ends up happening is like when I first show up, I'm very like energized. So I just like pump through a whole bunch in the first couple hours, and I go faster than I can, or I go faster than I normally would. And then I feel like I can like take a breath and be like, oh, okay, I've built some like buffer room for myself. Now I'm like, I can get a coffee. I can like take a breath. I can maybe go have a stretch. I can like, okay, I'm set for the next 3 hours or whatever it is. It is like a mental game.
Yeah, you're managing your pace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're managing so much, like from just the time that you get there all the way up into the very end. It's your time because you know how much you have to do. But
Mhm.
of course, this is like this is what we do, right? The drawing, and this is what everyone wants to do. You want to just get to the wedding and do your thing. But like there's so much that happens before that, right? Like so
Yes.
like, well, I mean like when you get the inquiry. So like can you
Yeah.
tell us about your process from like just getting the inquiry to preparing and then being there on site? What does that look like for you?
So I'm gonna start at lead creation because
Mhm.
we talked extensively about this on the CRM episode. Through my lead form on my website, somebody sends me an inquiry. It goes into my CRM inbox. And like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to
Yeah.
be like, oh, this gets count is this much. So maybe I should say this. Like, I don't want to think about it. So it's like, I have the reply template. I'm available
Yeah.
for this wedding. That email is done, the attachment is done, the price is set, the template is the template, it just goes out. Um, and it's one thing that I've like had to like really learn over time is the pricing mindset. And
Mhm, mhm.
this is the thing we talk about all the time, but you just have to come to peace with the fact that the price is the price that you want to charge. And you just you just that's the quote, that price is the price. Don't like convince yourself to change that after you've made that decision. So
Uh-huh.
I put it on a PDF and it's attached to the email already. It's like I have no chance to second guess myself. It's like this template is done. It's sent. And the people who reply very quickly to that are usually the ones who end up booking me. And the
Mhm.
people who don't reply to that, I mean, 9 out of 10, they just ghost me. And then maybe that 1 out of 10 who don't reply right away, maybe they come back 5 months later and say like, "Oh, hey, I want to revisit this," and maybe they book me, maybe they don't. But um, once it's out of my leads page,
Yeah, you don't
then
remember
it's
it anymore.
yeah, it's
It's
off of it's like a to do. You just check off.
Yeah. And
It's
sometimes
gone.
it's like when someone inquire, they just want to know, like, oh, is this something in our budget? Like, I want to know how much it is.
Yeah,
And then it's just like they're doing research. Right. So it's like it's expected that you're gonna be ghosted when you're being inquired by like private clients like this. Um,
yeah,
and there's gonna be one or two or a few, like, 10% of those that will say yes, who've thought
uh,
about it, you know really want
absolutely.
it. So
And those are those are the people you want to focus on, right? The people who
yeah.
are like, oh yeah, let's go, like let's book this thing now. And it's worth it to get that one client for
Mhm.
all those leads that you get to book the one that is your ideal client who wants to book you at your price. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the lead part.
Mhm.
So as far as preparation goes, that's where the conversation starts, right? Then I kind of get into the details. Usually a planner is involved, but if there isn't, there could be like a day of coordinator who manages the timeline and logistics of how to run the show on the day of. So that person and I, and sometimes it's the wedding couple. We'll talk about the venue, if it's local or not,
Mhm.
if there's a theme, if there's colors, dress codes, that kind of thing, and if it's outdoor, indoors, and they'll ask me what equipment I need, and we just exchange all these logistical information. Um, And I also like kind of explain a little bit further maybe about how the package works. Like, who do I have an assistant on site who's going to help me with this and this and that. And usually that's like a very big green flag for a wedding planner who's like, good, I don't have to give you any help. I don't have to put an assistant my way, out of my way to station at yours to help you. Like these things are all, things that need to be talked about to make sure, again, like wedding day goes smoothly and that you fit into the timeline without any issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's anything that sticks out that's different, I'll discuss it with my assistant. Like, this is our starting time. This is how we're getting there. Oh, by the way, the couple wants these family and friends drawn first, yada yada. Like stuff that we need to, set expectations for. You have a question? I can see it in your face.
Oh no, I actually wanted to share something that my assistant actually brought up
Yes.
for like a system that she actually came up with.
Yeah.
So first of all, having an assistant is a must because you're doing a marathon. You don't want to be in like, distracted all the time and then like not being able to draw because your focus is to draw. What she does is, so she created like a list, and I told her like, this is the max I can do. Like I can do 40 guests within the 4 hours, and then but like we can focus like we want. And then what she did is she saved like I think 10 spaces for the host, which is the couple, and then the family. And then so whoever come out, she put their names, like, okay, this is gonna be your name, like you can come back later. And then so she knows that like when it's done at 40, she can we can stop at that. And she can also tell like who does the double. It was like double dipping. So she saved that spot for the VIPs to make sure that they're included
Yeah.
by the end of the night, because like they're always too busy, right, with the other guests. So
Yep.
we want to make sure that saves time. So I thought like I wanted to share that.
Yo, no, that's awesome because it's something you learn over time.
Yeah.
You might like troubleshoot that at one point and amend your process a little bit. And the way that I've done it is kind of backwards to what you do. We kind of save space at the end. So we'll take pictures of guests up until a certain point, and then we'll kind of mentally cut it off for ourselves, and then just save room. So that there's always a VIP, there's always like the wedding party that shows up kind of towards the later of the night where they actually they have a time to breathe and like walk around and say hi to people. And typically that's when they visit me too. So then we have room left over for them. But yeah, there's like quite a lot of logistical preparation.
This is why you need an assistant to
Yeah.
like do all of that.
And it kind of takes like one go at it for you to like make mental notes about all these things that you're like, oh, we really need a process for this. We really need to get this part streamlined. But yeah, so at this point, my sister and I have come up with our favorite ways to deal with certain things, and then where we find pockets of time where we can do a bit of like content,
Eat.
or you can eat or stretch, like I said. Oh, even in the last couple weddings, I finally realized like, oh, you know what I should do? I should put like a little alarm clock thing. Like I have an hourly alarm that goes off that says stretch.
Oh, that's
So
smart.
good.
It's like stand up and stretch. Like, do the thing. And it's just like it is such a physical ordeal where you just like head down and you're just drawing nonstop. And you're kind of like looking up, saying hi to people, chatting, and then you're back down and drawing. And it's like once you've done it once, you realize how much it is on a late 30 something body.
No,
It's
it's
a lot.
true. But like, your best position is your next position. So you
Yeah.
have to keep moving.
So yeah, keep moving, get up and stretch, get water.
Forget to drink water.
I'm so stressed
Mhm.
out listening to this already.
Michelle's like sweating.
I know. I can feel my heart rate going up.
That's totally it though. Like stress management on site is something that has to be practiced, I
Yeah,
think.
it's
Yeah.
something that you have to experience it yourself and then figure it out.
Mhm. Like everything you can practice at home, you practice at home skill wise, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm prepared to do this. And then once you're on site, you're like, oh, I hadn't accounted for the fact that somebody was gonna put their coat and drinks on my table and that was going to stress me out. Like you just don't think about these things until they happen. And at this point, Ruby, who comes to my jobs with me all the time, she knows, like as soon as like a drink touches my table, my eyes are like, and she gets stressed out on my behalf. She has secondhand stress.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Remember, if it shakes, right, it can like ruin the whole. It ruins the table. It could ruin like your artwork. It does not fun. Sometimes
No.
like drinks are like so dainty, like it can easily like just spill.
Oh my God. At the last wedding I was at, they had cups that were plastic. And so they're flexible. So as you walk around with this glass, it's so easy to spill because the liquid is like changing shape all the time.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
if you know what I mean, but like it's just like it's like one of those like kiddie cups that are like really soft. I don't know. It's like imagine you're holding, I don't know, like a cupcake holder, like
Oh, I've
the
Okay.
seen those.
paper
They're like
tin.
the white plastic cups.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
those are
yeah.
Yeah.
so.
So it's just like really flimsy and like flexible. And I just thought that it was somebody was gonna spill it. Nobody did, thankfully, but everyone's holding these things like very carefully. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
That should be not allowed at weddings.
Ah.
Um, if I may say, so the second time I did an event, it was a new assistant, and I took notes of like what could potentially happen, and please, this is your actionable. That was like, so I made like a long PDF, and
It's
like
like an emergency kit. Like this is the what's gonna go wrong.
this is what's gonna happen. This is what you're gonna do. This is gonna happen. This is what you're gonna do, including like FAQ. How long have you been doing this? They're gonna ask that. Did you go to
Ah.
art school?
It's
is what
A,
you're gonna
then
say.
B, then C, then D.
I just want to say, that's very HR of you. Right away, I'm thinking like a workplace safety manual. Emergency situation in case of fire. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna follow this person out of the building. Yeah, I can see that. Transferable skills, right?
Yeah. Process. I need process.
I need process. It needs to be in a PDF.
Yes. So organized, Talisa.
Except my PDF now is not as boring as when I was like in HR. It's like branded, with like the colors.
Naturally, yes, of course. Oh my God. Oh, but yeah, okay. Speaking of which, no, you brought me to to the right place. Having like, having a manual even in your head about like all the things that I have to manage on site, and like get set up. There was thankfully the first time I realized this that I have to check for this is where to like change my water. So because I use paint and one time I showed up and the bathroom was like it just steps away from my station. And when I noticed that when I came in to set up, I was like, oh, this is perfect. I have a place to change my water. And then in that moment, I was like, how come I've never thought to check that before? Like, where do I change my water? I always bring water with
ready.
me. I have a fresh bottle of water, but then I need at some point to dump that out and get fresh water, and I don't have that. So I'm ever since that time where I was saved by a very close by bathroom, I'm like, oh, I gotta watch out for that. So next time I set up, I gotta locate my nearest water source. Like,
Situate yourself.
situate yourself. Where's the nearest exit, and where's the next water source? But yeah, just like lay out all my stuff within reach. Sometimes I have some things still in my bag, or I have done that in the past, where like at midpoint of the event, I'm like, oh, I gotta go back into my bag and find that thing. Like, no go. I can't have that. So now everything's just out, including my like multiple batteries and for the light and for charging and for whatever. Everything's just out. Then I'm ready and I don't have to think about it later.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree with that. So those are the things that I'm still like not used to, obviously, because I don't do this often enough. It's important to like kind of get used to know where your things are as you go, depending on like your medium and all that. Yeah, that takes practice.
Yeah, because it's a lot of stuff that we bring for illustrations that are, it's not like cut and dry. It's not one medium.
Yeah.
Like now,
Sorry.
yeah, no, that's okay. At this point, I'm like, there's paint, there's markers, there's pencils, there's this. Like, it's a
Mixed
lot of
media.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like painting where it's just like the paint and your paintbrushes, or calligraphy.
Yeah.
Like you're
Or
carrying,
it's not like, yeah.
yeah, anything else.
Exactly.
It's like you're bringing so many different things. I can't even imagine.
Like every second matters.
That's what it is. I think like that's the driver of all the processes that we have for weddings, is like, what's going to save me time? What's going to cost me time? And like, how do I make sure this doesn't waste my time? Like, everything is motivated by time.
It is. This is, yeah. And well, now we kind of like, now that we touch on like, the supplies that you need, can you tell us? Because I know a lot of people always ask, it's like, what stuff do you bring,
Yeah, it's like definitely one of the most popular questions. If anyone is watching on YouTube, and if you're not, like, open the YouTube version and get to this point, because I actually brought my on-site gear to share with everybody. I won't
this is
do,
gonna
like,
be so helpful.
I know.
So
This is my favorite part.
I want to know too.
I know. Like Isabel's opening the treasure chest.
So first of all, it's like I just bought this fairly recently. It's kind of like just a handheld makeup kit
Yeah. Mhm.
thing. Initially, I was carrying around like a bigger trunk, and then later I went to like a smaller luggage, and now I'm like, you know what? I can fit it into a smaller and smaller thing every time. So, like I said, process is constantly being amended. I'm not married to anything. I just tweak it as I go. Okay, so my clipboard that I draw on, I just covered the mic, so sorry. I've got paper here in like a sleeve. This is literally from the last job. I haven't put it away. Plastic sleeves for the drawings. I have a little signage that says what I'm doing here, fashion illustration, have your photo taken with us. And then when we're like done taking photos for the night, we like flip it over and it says, sorry, we're at capacity. We can't take any more.
I love that.
Yeah. And like it does help manage the guests a little bit, because sometimes like I'm busy the whole time, but sometimes my assistant can be busy talking to somebody else or helping somebody else. So if a guest is going to come to my table and wonder like, ooh, is she still doing more? It helps to just have signage for for the polite guests anyway, who will read it and kind of say, "Oh no, like she's not doing anymore," and just quietly exit. That's best case. I don't know if you can tell from far away, but I have like some brushes and markers here. I'll use like larger brushes just because I think it looks better, and then I'm not like focused so much on the line quality. I have markers for things that need to be like higher saturation that I just can't get with paint in a quick amount of time. So I have like maroon, like bright red, black, royal blue. Like those things are really hard to do with paint.
Like paint as in like watercolor.
Watercolor, yeah, you're right. I have colored pencils that I sketch with instead of just graphite because they smudge and I hate them. I have these cloths. They're like the reusable paper towel type things.
Oh,
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so they are sometimes they're marketed as like Swedish dishcloths or whatever. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're meant to be like one sheet is supposed to replace like, I don't know, like 10 rolls of paper towels or whatever in terms of like usage. So you're supposed to use them for like washing dishes or like wiping up messes. They're very absorbent. So I just started using them for paint, and I was like, why am I still wasting paper towels if I can use something that's meant to replace paper towels? Hello.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm adding that to my Amazon list.
Add it to your Amazon. It's very nice, and it like dries kind of crumply, but once you're like painting with it, it just gets wetted and flattened, and it's fine. My like little QR signage, multiple battery packs. I mentioned that. A pencil sharpener. My water bowl has caused so much interest online. People are like, "Oh, your water bowl,
it's so cute,
so pretty." So maybe a side story. Like I collect Jasperware. This is Wedgwood Jasperware. I don't know if you've seen them. It's like a very special kind of porcelain.
It's very pretty.
It's very pretty. I have so many containers with that design, that blue and white. A one more battery. I have 3. My paint set, my watercolor, and I've got my battery wireless light. Oh yes, like you and I just bought this. I love it so much. Like wireless.
By the way, all places are usually getting dark, so it's so important to bring lighting.
Even at a venue that's lit, it's dim. Like it's not bright enough to do drawings. So we need the light. I've got like a little tripod thing for my cell phone. I have a fan. Sometimes it gets really hot in a wedding venue. It's like I need a fan, not even for the illustrations.
Yeah. You can do both, like facing you and then you're drawing. That's what I do because I'm like I get so hot.
Yes.
Like it's doing double the job.
Double all the stress. You're burning up.
Yeah, right. More markers and brushes and brush pens. I started using like a brush liner, like a Sumi brush for adding some bolder lines outside the like to outline the drawing. My little
it's
water
like, you can do like line variety, like things. It just makes it look.
It is like a comfort level thing. I used to use just fine liners for that, and now I just want it to be a little bit freer. My water bottle goes in a waterproof bag. I have like a paint palette spray thing.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's literally it. So it's a very simple pack job now that I've like made it quite small. It's nice because then I just open this up and I just know I have to take everything out. I'm not like hunting for things in the in the luggage. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like it's very small setup. Oh yeah, one big thing that doesn't fit in the bag is I bought like a new display case, like a magazine rack thing. So that just displays the drawings as I complete them, and then it's as if like you're building a little art gallery,
I like
through
that.
the night, and then people come by and check out the drawings, and instead of crowding my table, they can crowd the magazine rack, um and it's just fun. Like they pass by, like I said, on the way to the buffet or like hanging out with their friends at the next table. It's just something to see on their way and check out. So yeah, having that display is helpful.
And it's
I
so
don't know if
Instagrammable. Like when people take pictures of you, you have all the pictures, all the drawings behind you. So pretty.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah, that thank you for showing all of your supplies. I feel like that's super helpful for people who want to see, because when I think about it, I think you're bringing like a huge suitcase, like a huge rolly thing with all of your supplies, but for it to fit into like a tiny little bag,
Like
that's
a
so
bag,
good.
yeah.
I know. I don't even have something that small, and I don't even do illustration. But yeah.
It's
Okay.
been heavily edited. That's why. Like I used to bring bigger things that aren't as
Use.
compact.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the acrylic board that I used to use had like
Oh yeah.
had a slant, right?
Like it wasn't
And
inflatable. Like not inflatable, like collapsible.
inflatable.
Sorry.
Yeah, collapsible. Yeah, that's the
Collapsible.
word.
Sorry, it's past midnight right
Yeah,
now
it's
for
very
me.
late for
Oh
me.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, so it had that like big angle to it, which meant I couldn't put it flat in anything. So I had to use the luggage for that. And I thought like, okay, if this if this thing is preventing me from using a smaller case, then maybe this thing needs to be changed, right?
Yeah.
So I just like started looking for ways to make things flat and collapsible. But yeah, so it's been heavily edited over time to make
And
sure
you never
that
know, you might change it again within like
I
the
will
next year, right?
definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
It's like an ongoing.
this is not an end all be all.
It's not permanent. I think from like the last episode on illustration, like I've changed my favorite medium. Like I used to say, what did I say? Watercolor. Now I'm using gouache because
Yeah.
it made sense to me because I'm an acrylic girl and it's like a midpoint between like watercolor and then acrylic.
Yes, and I remember saying that I use markers over paint. And same thing. I think we just like we change things around.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, maybe I'll talk about this. Like for weddings too, I just think that the watercolor media is more artistic,
Mhm.
like a little bit more romantic.
Yeah,
And
it's the
it is
flair and like
it's a little bit more of a rarer medium for people to see. They walk by and there's a lot of people that still ask like, is that watercolor? And honestly, it's a question to them, and like no knock to them. Not normal people don't have watercolors at home. To us, it's like, yes, of course it's watercolor. Why would you ask that? But like a normal person who doesn't do art, they don't see watercolors every day. And so for them to see it in action, it's like, oh, is that watercolor? That's awesome. Like it is a medium that is just a little bit more artistic.
We talked about this before, and like how it's like two different things. You're using the brush to manipulate the paint, and that's what makes it so special rather than like picking up a pen and just using that piece. It's
Yeah,
so different for people to see.
for sure. Because everybody's seen markers before.
Of course.
Everybody has had markers. Not everybody has had paint and paintbrush and actually used it or appreciated how difficult it is to actually draw well with that or paint well with that. It is more impressive.
Totally. Okay, I have a question. This is like something that everyone's probably been waiting for. The $1 million question. So tell us, how do you approach pricing?
I had to drink water for that.
Yes.
Just launching in. So this has been the way I framed pricing for weddings since the very first one that I did. And I was lucky enough to have an acquaintance that I could kind of interview and ask these questions for. And she kind of shared with me how she approaches this, and she was very open and transparent, and she gave me a lot of useful information. And I thanked her a lot for it, and I still do to this day. She gave me a lot of like amazing advice, which I'm sharing a lot on this episode with, because I just think like everyone can benefit with all of these, how to structure pricing, how to structure like your package. This is just logistical information that I think everybody deserves to have. Sorry, I didn't answer the question right away. I just wanted to like mention where it came from, to give her credit. But yeah, so the package I always send out is like a flat rate for 5 hours. So I don't approach it hourly per se. I don't tell you like, oh, it's X dollars per hour and a minimum of whatever. Like, I just say it's 5 hours, it's this price, and this is what you get with that price. And this way, I think it's just like really clear to the client, the planner, whatever it is, that I think this is what works best for a wedding, because it's going to be their first wedding, but it's not my first wedding job, right? So I'll say like 5 hours. That usually, like, typically I start around cocktail hours, just like fresh off the ceremony, where people are starting to mingle. And then I work right through reception, and then sometimes into the late hours, depending on how late I start. And this way, they have that expectation to like, oh, I see. It's not just like a 2 hour thing. And people do ask for that, oh, can you come and sketch for like, an hour and a half during our cocktail hour? And I was like, that's not a good use of whatever you're hiring me for at all. Yeah. So it's like the wedding package is this will give you like the most value for what you're looking for. And if you want like a 1 hour thing, like, I'm not your girl. So that communicates that very effectively. So, okay. From what I've seen, like, you can Google a lot. Like, there's illustrators all over the world that do this. And the people who publish their prices, there's like a good number of them that publish things like starting at this price. And many people do choose to frame it or structure it the way I do. It's just like a flat rate. Like, it starts at this, it goes up from here, but it's definitely not an hourly thing. So in terms of like Canadian dollars, I've seen anywhere from like $2,000 to $5,000 for their package. And some people don't say, of course, like how many hours that is, but that's the kind of the ticket price you're looking for. We're not doing a 5 hour wedding job for $500. Like, that is not it. You do have to factor in things like paying an assistant, right? And the back and forth with a wedding client is far more strenuous than like booking, a brand job for, it's a lot of planning, a lot of communication. So that all goes into it. We always talk about like charge for your time. Like, this is time. This is a lot of admin time. And I said earlier that I hate emails. So, this is part of that. And one thing that I've added to is like an overtime thing. I mean, I think we all have that built into our contracts to say like, okay, if this goes over time, you're gonna get billed for like this amount per hour, right? Definitely put that in. And for me, I use like overtime pay as a deterrent to making me work over the agreed number of hours because I don't want to stay there anymore. I'm
You're so
not
tired
like,
after 5
I'm
hours.
so tired after 5 hours. Like I don't, I know like a lot, some artists who view overtime like, oh, like I got more money out of a job. Which like, I think that's fair if that event was short to begin with and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I was able to squeeze like 2 extra hours out of them and then did a lot more products. That's awesome. But for like something that's already long and strenuous, like I don't want to be there even 5 minutes more. Like I need it.
Yeah.
This is done. I'm out. Right. So I use that overtime pay to like really, increase that from the hourly and just almost use it as like a penalty. Like
I
don't
like
keep me
that.
overtime. Don't keep me overtime because it's gonna hurt both of us.
It's gonna hurt your pocket.
It's gonna make me mad. It's gonna make you mad. We don't want that. And then so pricing for offsite drawings. So I've mentioned earlier I do about 50 guests for 5 hours. That is well below most wedding sizes, right? So, I mean, the most popular wedding size is probably like between 100 to 200.
Mhm.
I can't finish that many, obviously. But for me personally, I don't want to have to do too many offsite drawings just because I can't estimate my studio calendar very well because I have a lot of stuff going on other than this job. So I don't want to like promise that time away and say like, oh yeah, if you want me to capture all 200 of your guests, I can. I can't promise that. And so I used to have it in my package saying like, oh, offsite drawings are this much per individual person I draw. And now I've totally taken that off and I just say like a sentence in there under FAQs to say like I can potentially accommodate it. We just need to discuss it. Yeah, just it's just a personal thing. But they know there are artists who have that capacity and can absolutely handle a 500-person wedding and be like, yes, I will get the rest of those drawings to you by 1 month time, which I'm like, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
can
based
promise
on availability,
Mhm.
capacity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do brides typically ask for that from you?
It could be that question's just not come up. It could have been one of many ghosters that I have where they see that in my package and like, oh, well, if she can only do 50, then I don't want that. It could be that. I've never explicitly been told that or asked for like a full wedding to be captured. But there has been a few that I've had to do offsite drawings for, but it's not for the whole party. It's just for whoever requests one. And it's not everyone, Not everyone wants one. And that's okay.
True.
Yeah.
Better for you.
Yeah, kind of. I just want to do the job on site and I just want to like close it out.
Listen, also like okay, I personally don't really enjoy doing offsite in studio because you don't get that instant gratitude anymore as when you're doing it on site. So it's
we
really,
need that.
it's really
We
hard.
need the instant. We need the instant praise.
Yeah, and that's how you can get through the marathon of drawing.
That's like the best thing about being on
Nobody
site. It's like when they're so happy to receive it from you.
Yeah, it's
And
like
you don't
literally
get
the
to
whole
see
point
that.
why we do this.
I know.
It's very, very true. Like I actually today I just shipped off like 30 drawings And the thought did cross my mind where I'm like, oh, but I won't see anybody be happy about their drawings. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of sad. I'm just sending them to the void. I'm like, okay, see you. I hope you enjoy your new homes.
No. I'm sure they were very happy.
I mean, the people who did take pictures with my assistant that day, of course, like we had a mini interaction and they like love the work and all that stuff, but it's like I'll never see them again. I won't see their precious faces when they see their drawing. So yes, I concur. Like you're missing that part of the dopamine hit, the motivation to draw. It's true. Oh yeah, and the last thing for pricing is to include travel fees too. Sometimes I do it simply like, okay, I'll do like 50% deposit and then 50% later on, but I do say like 50% of the service, but 100% of travel has to be upfront. So like if I have to go somewhere for it, that has to be paid. Otherwise, I can't book a hotel. I can't book anything if I don't have that money in my hand. So yeah, build in the travel fees for sure. Yeah.
That makes total sense. Because like you don't want to like book it at the end and then you like there's no hotel that's like close to it, or like what if you have to fly and then right? That has to be ahead of time.
Yeah. And that's got to cover both of us, like not just
you and your assistant. Yeah.
And typically, like for weddings, they have like a room block with a hotel and whatnot. Like it's easier for them actually just to include me in the hotel block instead of paying me to book my own hotel. It's just easier.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Especially if it's far. Makes sense. Then like having to go home and drive for 2 hours like after midnight.
Listen, that's what it is. Like that one job that was technically local. Yeah, it was maybe a 2-hour drive away from home, but I was like, I'm not driving at 11:30 at night for 2 hours after strenuous work. Like I need to sleep
That's so dangerous,
immediately.
right? Yeah.
So
Even though your Tesla can like self-drive, but still.
The Tesla monitors that you are awake, so you cannot just F around with that either. For the record, I do not condone sleepy Tesla self-driving. Yeah.
So, is there any favorite things or least favorite things? Let's talk about the favorite things that you love about like wedding guest illustration first. Things that you like.
Okay, so it's always appealed to me before I started doing this. I again like my assumption of what it might look like is like, oh, if I could just show up to a job and put my head down and just draw all night and like not have to talk to a single person. I was like, wow, that sounds kind of nice. So I was like, this is like an introvert artist's dream job. I just hire somebody to do all my talking and all my interactions, and all I have to do is draw. Like this is awesome. And that part does come out to be true for the most part, because I am like quite focused on the drawing all night. Obviously I interact with the guests as much as I can and have the conversations as they walk by, and we talk and we chat, and there will be instances where like they'll ask for my contact, they'll scan my code. Oh my god, like you've done this, you've done that. Oh, you were at my friend's wedding, like stuff like that. Like these interactions are like really, really fun still. In between drawings or in the middle of, like, that's still fun, obviously. But for the bulk of the time, I'm really just there to draw, which is really
Yeah.
nice. Like I'm not trusted with like that, like I said, back to the in-store comparison. I'm not trusted with that like one-on-one VIP experience, which I think can be, exhausting in its own way. Um, but yeah. So my introversion is satisfied by this job. And the second thing and Ruby knows this. I'm always so excited for the food. I'm like, what are we having for dinner?
What's in the menu?
I know. Or like if we start a cocktail hour and there's usually, hors d'oeuvres being walked around on a plate. I'm like, oh, what's over there? Oh, what's over there? What are we eating? I'll take a spring roll, okay? Like, I'm so food motivated. I'm like a golden retriever. But yeah, it's fun being part of the wedding because like it's amazing food for the most part. And they kind of just like it like brings you into that atmosphere where like everyone's just there to like party and have fun. That's like the vibes are very nice. Everyone is very happy. Everyone's like in the mood to celebrate. It's just like I think I must have said this before. It's just like the wedding atmosphere I feel like just can't be beat. In the store, people are kind of like you said, gift with purchase, right? Or it's a VIP who may or may not be like used to getting these bonuses. At a wedding, people I often get this question where they're like, oh, how much does this cost? Or like, how much are you charging for this? I'm like, oh my God, it's free. It's for you. I've been hired to do this for you. And people are like, can be quite taken aback, like, oh, really? Like me? They feel very special, like treated to something. So yeah, like the atmosphere is just different. I think it's just like really special. And even for me, I'm not like a huge like a romantic like lovey-dovey cries at wedding kind of person. Ruby is. She's the big crier. But what I love the most about a wedding is like speeches.
Oh,
I'm drawing and there's like a quiet moment in the night and then like toasts are happening and like the mom or dad is giving a speech and I'm just like like this is so sweet, like this is amazing. It's just like I said, it's like good vibes all around. Like you can't not have fun in an atmosphere like that, which I think is like very rewarding.
yeah.
Yeah.
Vibe is vibing.
Yes. And one more thing, I have gotten to see like some incredible venues this past season. One of which was on like a pretty private island. Which needed a ferry ride and then another private chartered boat to get to. It's like the logistics of that was like slightly nightmarish for me because I'm not a strong swimmer by any shot. So being on a small boat, it's not my happy place. But once we were there, it was like so beautiful. It was like an oasis, like incredible venue, florals. They had like shipped in a custom bar, like everything was to the nines. So, being a part of like a production like that is really special. You just see this thing that was planned for a year and you're just like here to enjoy. You're just like, I'm here. I'm just here to party. I'm just here for the food. I'm here to draw. Like it's fun to like be a part of that.
It's fun work. It doesn't feel like work anymore.
Yeah, like once you're into it, like all the stress that we talked about in the preparation stage, like getting ready to do the job, Um, I often like dread getting ready for weddings, but then once I'm there and I start my first drawing, then I'm like, oh, this is fun, right? But all that like logistical prep work, I just like it's stressful.
Yeah, it is. And especially if it's like it's probably not stressful anymore when you're doing it so much. Like let's see, like in a year, you're like it'll be like a breeze, right? You already have everything ready. Like tell me where to go. But
Yeah.
like I can see where it could be stressful if one, you don't do this often, or like the first time. I'm still stressed about it, thinking about it. But I'm like hearing your stories, I'm like, I think I'm more comfortable because I haven't actually like, like in my website, I say like I don't do it, but if someone asks, I'll give them my price.
Yeah.
It's still like I don't know if I want to do this, still hesitating, but like the way that you share everything, it just I feel like better. Like, but like we also want to know what's your least favorite about
I have issues.
gigs.
I have issues. So going back to my introversion, if I have like too many people in my space, I get really stressed out.
Yeah.
So sometimes, again, it's like that damn buffet line, like once the food is out, and I mean, this doesn't happen with plated dinners, like not everyone is standing up at the same time. This only
Yeah.
happens at buffets where like people rise and they walk past me, and then it's kind of like a crowd situation around my table, and just like everyone's watching, and I'm like, "Ooh, there's an audience doing like me drawing this one thing," and I'm like, everyone's watching me. It's a lot of pressure. So yeah,
And I have
that's
you have a quota, yeah.
yeah. I just need, can everybody just take 2 steps back?
It's like what is it, Anne Hathaway? The way she like there's like one people like a paparazzi and all these fans are like crowding her like I understand,
Yeah,
please. It's like but you can't do that. You have to keep drawing. It's like it's
yeah.
so simple.
And I can't tell people to leave me alone either. It's like I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm like supposed to be here as the entertainment, but I'm like I don't want to entertain 50 people at the same time.
That's when your assistant come
Yeah.
in handy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Your social shield.
My social shield, especially like what's most unpredictable is children.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Little kids are like they're so adorable. They can be like my favorite moments at an event, but they can also cause the most damage. And yes, like,
I had a kid stealing my Copic markers and then ran away to the end of the hall. I can attest to that. And you know how Copic markers are not cheap, so
man, like you owe me $20.
oh my
Get back here.
God.
Get back
This is
with that
why I
marker.
switched to gouache.
A functional switch. I love it. Yeah, I have a 5-year-old. It's not like I'm not like experienced with that age, like in my space. But yeah, sometimes when they like come up real close and they could be bumping things, they could be spilling things, they could be very distracting, asking a lot of questions, which some of them are really cute,
Cute, yeah.
really cute questions. And I like having those conversations with them because I'm like, it's like looking at like little childhood me who's like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like I just want to know. Like they just have wonderments that you're like, this is a good moment. Like I'll address that. But as soon as they like touch my table or bump my arm, I'm like, oh, you gotta go.
They crossed the boundary.
You cross my boundaries. And then like Ruby would have to say like, would you mind just giving her a little bit of space? Like she says it so politely where I'm like, I want to say words like as a mom, like the words I would use with my child. But I'm like, okay, these are not my kids. I gotta be nice. But just so unpredictable, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stealing of Copic markers. I have a story. There was one time it was a kid and like a grandma duo who were watching me. And at first I thought this was like a really quite cute moment. And then later on I realized they were staring at me because they wanted to borrow a marker to like draw with. And I was like, ma'am, please don't borrow my markers. She's like, oh, can we have this for like, I guess she wanted something to like entertain the kid with, right? Can we borrow this for something? I was like, oh, no.
Sing Crayola.
Oh
Man, sorry. I don't have any kids' toys.
yeah.
Like,
That should go on the FAQ for the bride. Bring
yeah. Bring kids entertainment toys. I will not supply them with markers to play with.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And then they like kind of kept pushing. She was like, "Oh, okay. Well, then can you like just like draw something like maybe just like on her hand?" Or I was like, "This ain't like face painting."
Oh my god.
I was like,
Oh my god.
I said no.
Of course.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no. But also functionally, I did not want to get marker on skin. even if I wanted
Alcohol based.
yeah, even if I
Man, we don't
wanted
want
to
that.
to just appease them and be like, "Oh yeah, here you go." Like, "Oh, it's not skin appropriate, guys."
No,
Like,
it's not. Like, I don't think your kid wants this.
yeah. And I have gotten face painting questions before. There's been multiple times where people are like, "Are you doing face painting?" I'm like, "Bro, no." That's not what's happening. Oh my god.
I should add that to my
Add that to your
FAQ.
FAQ. This is not face painting, and no, we will not be doing that. Yeah. That's a least favorite thing. Oh yeah, and sometimes like the party goes late. It's dark. People are getting sufficiently liquored. Um, it's like 11 p.m. Things are a little rowdy sometimes. We've all been to weddings where it like gets a little out of hand. Sometimes it can descend into madness where I'm like, this is no longer a good environment for what it is that I'm doing. But thankfully, that usually is just like the last hour I'm there. I'm like just trying to finish up. But yeah, people can cause a lot of damage in those late hours.
Yeah.
Either to my display or to my space.
Yeah.
There was one time actually, I did a large illustration for a guest book signing. And this was not from a drunk person though. It was just a pure accident, but it was um placed on an easel and just like people chatting and walking around and somebody knocked it over and I swear I saw it in like slow motion like falling down and I was like no, and it was like out of my reach, right? And some guy, he was a hero. Okay, he literally threw his drink to catch my drawing. I was like, oh, sir. Thank you for that. And now there's like a broken glass with champagne like all over the floor. But he like literally had my easel in his hand and he didn't know what he just did
Oh my
either.
god.
What a
And I
hero.
was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And everyone's like,
Oh, my heart stopped.
This is part of the entertainment of the night.
Yeah, that was planned, you guys. Oh my God. So yeah, there's a lot of shenanigans that can happen. A least favorite are definitely the drunk people and the accidents. There's been an instance where a planner was kind of rude.
Oh,
I mean, they're very high strung. Okay, they're also extremely stressed out on wedding day. And I just give them space to stress and run around and go nuts. But sometimes, yeah, like the exchanges can be little stressful, especially on the day of. And I don't need a lot. Actually, I don't need anything. I just need my space set up. But there's been times where like some miscommunication has happened. And then on site, you're trying to like sort it out last second.
yeah.
And yeah, like sometimes these personalities just don't jive or like in a like panic pressure environment, some people don't deal very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's like kind of unique to weddings, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's a
it's
very high strung moment.
it's a lot of unpredictabilities, and so you just have to have that like a quick problem solving, good communication on the spot when it comes to these things, like when it comes to being an event artist in general. So it's like, yeah, those are the things that it can't really be taught. Like you just have to be there to know how to deal with it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And just completely from my personal experience, and I didn't like go out of my way to plan for this, but Ruby, who accompanies me to a lot of weddings, she's a big problem solver like that. Whereas I'm less of a problem solver. I'm very like, oh, like this has happened. Now I like pivot. I just kind of like, okay, go do something else
Avoid
or do
it.
something different.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
distract. Yeah.
yeah. Whereas Ruby's like, oh, like this is an issue, and she will like just get up out of sight and she will like go find something that will make it work for the problem
Wow.
at hand, which is really, really helpful. Like very opposite of my form of problem solving, which is like, okay, well, that's no longer an option. I'm just gonna move on. Whereas she's like, I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna find a thing that's gonna make this work, and then she always does.
Yeah.
She'll get an extra table set up. She'll get an extra tablecloth. She'll get like this person to get us this thing. And like, I don't know how she
That's
does
amazing,
it,
man.
she just like solves the problem. I'm
Goes
like,
in.
thank you, thank you for being here. I couldn't have done any of that. Or like, yeah, like my chair is too low. I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'll just suffer through it. It's fine. And she's like, no, I'm gonna get you a cushion or something else. We'll find out. We'll find a way. And then somehow, yeah, like she got me extra like linens that I could sit on, so that I'm like
Nice.
just like half a foot taller from on my chair. I'm like, oh, this will actually save my back. Thank you.
Can we all have a Ruby at our events?
Can we clone you?
I know, right?
Well, yeah, so helpful. But yeah, this is like this goes back to like the things that you can control. I feel like bringing an assistant you can trust and do these things and um call the shots on is really unique to this type of event, whereas like in source you just can't you have to deal with like the shitty table they give you that isn't meant for doing work on, and that's it.
For
that's
5
that's just
hours.
all you got.
Yeah.
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 Well, thanks for sharing that with us. You kind of talked about like some of the stories, like about the kids. You started on that, but like, do you have any other fun stories for us?
I do actually. This is a really interesting one that like caught me so off guard recently. The very recent wedding I did, near the end of the night, someone came up to me and I didn't clue in at all. But she's like, oh, I just wanted to say, your artwork is so beautiful and this is so special. And like, I just have never seen anything like this. Like this is really like out of this world. She just like was very, very sweet, very nice. So I'm having this conversation and then as we were getting into it, I was like, she looks really familiar. And she goes, I was actually here at the wedding in the same venue 2 weeks prior that I also worked at. And she was like, I actually got a drawing from you 2 weeks ago because I was at the wedding here. And I was like, what? It was the same venue 2 weeks apart, and she was a invited guest at both weddings. And she's like, "Yeah, I have your drawing from last time, and now I have a second one here." I was just like laughing about it, like such a coincidence. And she was like, "Yeah, you know what? Initially, I saw you here, and I was thinking like, oh, maybe like maybe I should just save the opportunity for somebody else." And I was like, "No, forget that." And she's like, yeah. I said, like, screw that. Like, I'm getting two.
She has a
Hey,
collection
different
now.
outfit.
I was like, no. This is your moment. Like, you got your two illustration collection. I'm like, maybe I'll see you at a third one. It
That's
was
like
very cute.
that's so cute. I mean, she's probably obviously wearing a different outfit too, right? So it's like it's different.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes.
And I didn't honestly like recognize her. Even though she looked familiar, it's not like I knew where she was from.
Yeah.
It's just that like familiarity, like, oh, that face could have been like a grocery clerk that you just like remember seeing like 2 days ago. Like you just can't place the face. But as she was talking, she's like, I was actually here 2 weeks ago. Oh my god. That was so funny. What a coincidence. There was also at the last wedding, these are just like fresh memories. I'm sure there was more stories I could share, but the latest wedding just giving me all the funny memories. There was this little kid who he was maybe like 6, and he was really cute. He was just like standing really close and just like watching very intently, quite respectfully, a little close, but it's fine. But he was like, how come you aren't drawing the eyes? And I was like, oh, it just takes too long. And I just rather spend time like adding more colors or doing other things, right? And he was like, why? You could just do dots. And I was like, oh, I mean, that's a very reasonable thought coming from a
You could. You really could.
could. You're right. Like I could just draw 2 dots. Like I absolutely can. But I'm not going to though. So yeah, he was just like so honest. He's just looking at these drawings. He's like critiquing it. He's like, why? You could just do that. It would take like 2 seconds, he said.
The no filter.
Like, no, you're right. It would be very fast. I just don't want to. And he's like, oh, okay. He's past it. But he was so cute. He was so happy with his drawing. He was drawing with his sister. And then they were like so stoked. They kept checking back with me like 3-4 times throughout the night. And then finally they got me as I was drawing theirs. And so they stayed for the whole thing, of course, from like beginning to end. They're like, oh my god, that's me. Oh, those my red shoelaces. Like so cute.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Those are the things that
I
are
love
like
that.
fun. Like I like it when kids are like curious like that.
Yeah. I mean they're like the most unfiltered, like honest, and when they're into it, they're into it. And you can see like how much it means to them. So sweet.
Oh my God, we've covered so much. Let's go to the last portion of this episode. As usual, we always end with an actionable advice for those who are interested in doing wedding illustration, or maybe you're already doing it and you want to improve some process. And this could be maybe a repeat from the last illustration episode, but yeah, tell them, spill it. Isabel, like, can you give us like at least like 3 actionable advice?
So definitely the top question I get is like how do I get started? How do I do what you do? And I am happy that we're able to address it on the pod because I just can't get into this DM conversation every time because it's a lengthy advice and I'm like a chatter about this topic. So here goes. The top advice I have is you have to learn how to draw first. And it's not starting with fashion illustration. Like it that's not the starting point. The starting point is absolutely learning how to draw and sketch items, objects, and then move on to drawing humans. You have to learn the anatomy,
Yeah.
proportion, muscle groups, that sort of thing, and be able to produce like a realistic drawing of a human, not not a sketch portrayal, which like that those are exercises that you can do, like quick sketches where you can do like blind sketches or whatever it is, like to warm up, yes. But like doing a study is so important, because then once you know what you're drawing, it's actually possible for you to start making that faster. I see a lot of people starting with sketching, and I think it's just, I mean, my opinion is still just my opinion. You can take it or leave it. Um, I'm not the expert to trust on this, but um, my advice would just be that that's just not the right starting point to start with sketching and sketching fast, because you just don't know where your line is going. Like, oh, how long do I make this forearm? I don't know. Where does it bend? I don't know. Um, does the elbow go past a waistline? You don't know. You just don't know these things. So if you're going to do it fast, you can't produce that result. And it'll just like never look realistic. Like the basis and the foundation is not there. It just won't look right if you're starting and you're starting to do it fast. And going back to like not starting with that, because it's just like fashion illustration is such a specific, just one small niche way of expressing a human drawing. There's a thousand different ways to draw a human, realistically, not realistically, Picasso-y. Like there's a million ways to do it. Fashion illustration is just one very small way. So it's like, I always go back to calligraphy analogies because I mean, this is our crowd, right? Like this is our audience. It's a little bit like, you're trying to do flourishing before you've studied letters, right? You're going like doing like the fancy stuff without learning the basic stuff. And then the fancy stuff will never look right, like it belongs anywhere until you have the basics down. And then the fancy stuff will look really good. Once you have the basics down, you just can't skip that step. Even though, my drawings now, when you see my sketches, it's not as if any part of it is realistic, right? Like nothing about it is like, oh, yeah, like dresses fall downwards. They are not flying up like the way I draw it. Of course not. That's something that I've chosen to do after, right? So if I can master drawing a human and their proportions, and I know like to what degree like an elbow stops, like your arms don't go a certain way. If you know these rules about the human body, you can make a sketch look really realistic, right? But yeah, so start there and then get quicker. And then painting and coloring is a whole other animal that you need to you need to learn separately. So it's just like there's a lot of building blocks to it before you approach fashion sketching. Um, that's my like lengthy, maybe hard to swallow advice. But if you want to ask me, that would be my advice. um, Yeah. Another big piece of advice for like this whole episode that we've been talking about is like getting your process down. Like
Yeah.
I think before I started um offering this as something that I would do, um I did a lot of prep for it, like mentally, and we did a lot of brainstorming. Like you and me, Talisa, we talked through it a lot. And I asked somebody else for their process, and then I kind of like built on that. It wasn't just something I took lightly and just like, maybe I'll try give this a try and just see what happens. I really, really recommend like throwing it all down on paper or on Google. Prep just like all your steps and all your process um in line, just so you know what you're gonna expect, and all the pieces that I talked about earlier, like, the things that you have to discuss with the client ahead of time, the things you have to manage on site, how much are you going to sketch an hour, how are you going to manage it with guests having their photos taken, at what point do you cut that off, like all these things need to be thought out
Yeah.
before you can confidently book a job and execute it well. And if you do a really good job, that's going to get you more referrals.
Jobs. Yeah.
That's going to get you noticed by the planner who's like, oh, I'm going to put you in my book for all my other clients. Like
Yeah.
that's how you win the next business times 5, is by having like those good skills, having that good process that you've like worked out and executed on site. I get a lot of these like referrals on site and planners who tell other planners, but at this point, the inquiry form where it says like, how did you hear about me? If it's a referral, tell me who. The who portion, I have no idea who that person is. It'll be like Sarah. Like, who's Sarah? I don't know. But it's like they've traveled through like 4 or 5 people to get to me, and it's like this network that you build will expand without you knowing. But it'll all come from all this prep and like excellent process that you've put in place. So definitely work that out. Especially with, like you said, the
Yeah.
assistant is like a must hire. Um, Logistically, it's not possible for me to do it by myself. It's just not, and I've never attempted a job without one, and I will never.
Yeah, we need
It's
that
already stress
Ruby.
enough. Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, I said we need Ruby. We need our Ruby.
We just need like a whole bunch of Ruby clones. It's
Yeah, I mean it's already stressful enough to just draw in a marathon like nonstop. Like imagine having to like take pictures and then communicate. Like you'll never get any drawings done if you have to do all of that. Or you're like your quota is like much, much less. It's too stressful. Like, you know, it makes sense. It also adds to the better process. And it's like, like the way that you said that, like, you got one job and then, your names are like going around, like planners now know you and everything. And that's the best, that's the literal best way to market yourself is through like word of mouth, through people have been witness your job on the job. And so you don't ever have to work extra hard to find clients. You let the clients find you just because, because one, you have the skill, two, you have the process, three, you have the support, which is your assistant. It's like, it's a perfect combination.
And once you like execute it properly, even just one time, like that's so much more powerful than having a website, than having Instagram, than reaching out to people, than like any proactive thing that you can do by just by doing an amazing job. at the job that you were already hired at, like that's like the best,
Mhm.
the most qualified like leads that you'll get is through a
Yeah.
referral.
Yeah.
Um,
I have
And
a
it makes,
friend who is a florist and she said the exact same thing. Like the planner already sees your work, she knows how good you are, and you will get more leads from that. But it does work.
it does. It's like that's how you have your career. I mean, so you're freelancing consistently booked. It's by proving yourself.
yeah, and it's like a sustainability thing, right? Like
Mhm.
you want to spend less time marketing,
Yeah.
less and less time.
Yeah. Let the work market itself. And that's what I
Mhm.
meant by like, not like just posting it on Instagram, but I meant like on the job itself. Let it market itself. Let them see how your process, like, it just when someone's testimonials, especially from like an event planner, like you're in their books, like you're set.
Mhm. And one thing I noticed, and I didn't know this before, was that sometimes planners will partner together for certain weddings. It could be a matter of like capacity and number of staff. Like let's say, there's like one planner that's doing the day of coordinating, and it's just like a little too much for one person or one plus one assistant to handle. And then they'll like find a planner friend to do it with them. There's been quite a few weddings where I've seen like multiple planners who belong to different companies, right? On site at the same wedding, which I didn't even really think was a possibility. But they're just like kind of mingling and hanging out. And I wasn't really sure like what their role was, but they were there just to support the planner, like of record. But
Nice.
they are a planner themselves, right? And so they're just like there's all kinds of people just like snapping your QR code. You don't know who these people are, but they are definitely like really key to impress along the way. Photographers you want to make relationships with, because everyone wants to use a preferred vendor, somebody they've seen in action before. um yeah, you don't want to be there doing, let's say, doing a job without help and then kind of like scrambling and like freaking out and panicking. Like that's not the impression you want to set, right? So it's never just about the job that you're doing that day. It's about doing a good job for future opportunities, which now sounds very extra stressful, but it kind of is true.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely gonna have an episode on like rehireability factors and all that to like more specific to that, and the things that we do that help us keep being rehired and whatnot. So yeah, that's a whole other topic that we're gonna talk about in the future.
It's
So
all related.
yeah, it's all related. And anyway, um, is there anything else that you want to share to the listeners about wedding guest illustration?
um I don't think so.
No? Okay. I think we've
Other
covered a
than,
lot. I think.
yeah, just to approach with caution.
Well, if you have listened all the way to the end, thank you so much. And I hope this has been very, very helpful. It has been personally very helpful to me. So Um, and I think a lot of people have been very curious specifically about wedding guest illustration. I think we have learned so much from Isabel. So thank you, Isabel, for answering all these questions that we've all been wondering about.
Sharing your secrets.
Yay. You're welcome. And none of it is a secret, by the way. I just want to get it out on public record. Like, this is
Yeah.
not, I'm like, this information I really believe is like it should be available to everyone.
Yeah.
If it helps like another person who's skilled and ready for the job, I think this is like
Yeah.
amazing. I hope you take away all this process and implement it.
I agree. And yeah, and just to end this podcast, if it helps, please make sure that you listen to our previous illustration episodes from season 1. That was also another interview style with Isabel. And follow us on Instagram. And we sometimes post stuff that are not discussed on the podcast, like on the carousel. So engage with our content. Let us know what you want to hear about. Any topics that you want us to cover that we haven't done. So let us know, DM us, any of us, follow us on Instagram, Event Ready Pod, and Event Ready Podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube.
Yes. Oh yeah. I hope you watch this on YouTube because
Yeah.
of all my sharing of my supplies. So definitely go there.
Yeah. And trust me, it's gonna be very, very useful that you watch that part as well. All right, so we are ending this episode and we will see you next time.
Yay.